Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. I'm here today with a very special guest. I'm very honored to have the James Krause here in studio today. James, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here. Just finishing up my training camp here in Denver. Tired, sick of training, ready to fight.
I can only imagine, man. Especially, you've been on the road with a couple of your fighters. Yep. So that has to take a toll on the energy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of par for the course. I've been pretty used to it. I've been doing it for a few years now. So, I was just in Australia, Boston, here and there. Pretty much every weekend I'm on the road. So, like I said, it was tough at first, but now it's just kind of like what's supposed to happen. So,
just used to it at this point.
A lot easier. Yeah. I'm just used to it pretty much. Yeah.
That makes sense. So, with us being about a week and a half out from your fight right now, describe where you feel that you're at.
I mean, really, I feel like I could fight tomorrow, today. I mean, I'm battling like a small little cold right now, but that's almost every fight. My immune system gets a little off about 2 or 3 weeks out. I feel like I could fight tomorrow, but really, I'm only here a few more days, and then I go back home, and I'll probably just really tether down, just rest, get recovered. Get ready to fight. I mean, it's like I said, I leave Thursday here. It's Monday now, so I have a few more days hard training here, and then I'll be done.
So what does that process look like as far as you traveling and getting down to Brazil?
Yeah. So Monday, Brazil's a little different just because it's so far away. But we leave, typically we leave Tuesday, get there Tuesday, but because the flight's so long, we're going to leave Monday. I think we have like a layover to Dallas-Fort Worth, and then from Dallas to Sao Paulo is, I think, like a 10.5-hour flight. So we actually get in, that's a red eye, so we get in Sao Paulo early Tuesday morning.
It's a lot of travel.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, just like you said, you've at this point, in your career, you figured out those little tricks of the trade in terms of travel as best as possible, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another factor. It's kind of, it's what has to be done. So those guys travel to the U.S. to fight. I mean, really, you have to be ready to fight all over the world. This is kind of, it's what's required for us in our job. Sometimes in jobs you have to travel, and ours just so happens to be one of them. So.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm especially excited to have you on the show today. One, just because I greatly respect who you are, within your career as a mixed martial artist. But two, also to kind of piggyback off the conversation that we had on Saturday after open mat before UFC 244.
Yeah.
You predicted that to go exactly as it went as far as the main event goes.
Yeah. I mean, if you just look, I fought Masvidal, so I mean, obviously I know firsthand, but obviously just taking that out, I feel like Masvidal is better than him everywhere. Masvidal has been fighting top level competitions. So is Nate Diaz, but Masvidal has been beating top level competition. Man, even since Strikeforce, right? This is a guy that's put some paid some dues, And I feel like he was a better striker. I feel like he had more power. I feel like he's a better wrestler. I feel like the jiu-jitsu is even kill. But with Masvidal always being on top, I just didn't see a scenario. I didn't see how Nate was going to beat him. Nate's not known for being a one-punch knockout power. He breaks people down over time. Masvidal doesn't get tired. He's got great cardio and he's strong, and so Nate's not going to out-wrestle him. So I just didn't see a way that Nate was going to win that fight. I think the last time that Masvidal was subbed was Toby Amada, like a miracle sub after he's mopping the floor with him. He fought Damian Maia and didn't get subbed. So Nate's jiu-jitsu is not better than Damian's. So I just look at stats. I try to compare fighter A, fighter B without emotion, and for me, fighter A, Masvidal, was just way better than fighter B. So.
What impressed you the most about his outing?
Well, I got to be honest. I'm not really maybe I'm impressed and surprised. I'm not surprised that happened at all. I mean, Masvidal is very good, and he's just now starting to get the recognition. He's always been good, but he's just now starting to get the recognition as being a top level fighter that he is. But I'm not trying to steal Nate's stuff, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. It went about how I thought it would, just like we talked about. Masvidal is just so good everywhere. So I don't see a situation, and that goes with a lot of people with Masvidal. I just don't see very many guys beating him. It's gonna take somebody that kind of like stalls the action and makes the fight slows it down and makes it more methodical for somebody to beat him. You know, like Stephen Thompson, he was able to slow the fight down. Damian Maia, able to slow the fight down. And I think at 55, one of Masvidal's, and that's where I fought him, one of Masvidal's biggest weaknesses was because of the cut, his cardio was never where it needed to be. I know this just because Jorge and I actually had a discussion about this because he was my inspiration to go to 70. And it was basically like a thing where it's like, man, like, you're trading off size for cardio, right? That's like at 55, there's very few people bigger than me at 55. Like I walk in, my last fight at 55, I walked in at 186.5 pounds on fight night. So I'm big at 55. At 170, I actually walked in lighter. But at 55, I'll catch myself in the clinch, looking up at the clock, you know, eating time away. And Jorge was saying the same stuff. So it's like, but at 70, you can just work. You don't have to worry about, you know, fading, and you can just work the whole time. And he is so good at that. But my biggest criticism of him at 55 was he would let guys back into the fight. Like he would pull away. I would say he's like the best vet that I've ever. He's the best guy I've ever fought. But like when I would turn it up, he would turn it up just a little bit more. I'd bring it down. He'd bring it down. He always stays like right here. And what that happens is, and I believe he still to this day is the person that's lost the most split decisions in the UFC. And I think it's because of that. At 70. You don't do that anymore, right? He's finishing guys now. So I think that's been a big reason why he's had a lot of success at 170 is because, and he's not small at 70. You know, I seen him in this has been a minute, but in UFC card in Chile, and he was like 208. Like he's not a small dude. He's thick and he lifts weights like 4 times a week. So I think it's been a great move for him. It definitely was my inspiration to go to 70 as well, because I see this guy that I had a close fight with. He's knocking out all these really good guys. So it's like, you know, in my head, I'm like, well, I can compete with these guys too. So I've only had one fight since I officially went to 170. I've had 2 fights at 170 in the UFC, but the last guy I fought was probably one of the bigger guys in the division. He's a big dude. I didn't feel overpowered or anything like that, and the cardio is different. The pace at 155 is a lot faster. The hand speed is a lot faster. The power and hip strength is a little bit different at 70, but I'm willing to trade that out.
That's understandable there. Now you mentioned only having one true official bout.
Yeah.
That being because the Ultimate Fighter, the comeback season, that was considered exhibition bouts, correct?
Sure. And I fought Tom Galicchio, but he's at 55 or 2. So like we were just 2 55ers fighting at 70. So it wasn't really. I didn't consider that a welterweight fight.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you had 2 different stints on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yep.
One of them, obviously, was kind of quick as far as your time competing, but then the other, you went very deep into the competition, all the way to the end, to just one of the biggest freaks that's ever came on the show. I mean, JT Money, that guy is a physical specimen.
Yeah.
Just seems like he never really pieced it all together away from the cage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't know what happened with him, but he tested positive. USADA got him, and then they cut him right after that. So I don't know with as many. Yeah, I don't know what to believe anymore with USADA. Who knows? Some people are doing stuff, some people aren't. I really don't care. It's not my job. So I think ignorance is not an excuse for that. But I don't know what he was doing or what he's not doing. But really, I don't really care. In that show, that's the beast of the show, right? It's like I had a war with Ramsey like 6 days before. He had a 2-minute fight. So I just went into it already beat, battered, and bruised. I would love to fight him again, with the multiple camps. Bigger cage, I think, would favor me. But I learned a lot from that, and I got exactly
Having
from that
two
show.
good eyes.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that. So it was good. He's fighting in Russia now, so I'm happy for him. He's doing well. He won the show. Mm-hmm. He's a beast. He's good. So learned a lot from it. I got exactly from the show what I wanted to, and I feel like I'm doing really well since then. So
that was kind of unique for you too, as well, being on the show, being that you were one of the guys who had some established and was still in the UFC at that point of going to the show. What was that decision like? Because most of the guys were guys like your Julian Lanes, your Joe Daddies, your Jesse Taylor himself, guys that had been away from the dance and trying to get back.
Yep.
What kind of led you to want to go on that path, being that you were already there?
Well, historically speaking, from a business standpoint, if you look at the guys that come off that show, the UFC likes to get behind those people, right? Because you can't spend millions of dollars on building a personality on a show and then just dump them. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, not very many people know who I am, number one. And number two, like, why would I not take the opportunity to have this organization get behind me, because they were spending all this money on me. So it was a pretty easy choice. Like, I did it just to get my name out there, to get the exposure that I wanted, to lead to bigger things. And I think it did just that. I got a lot of recognition off that, and I increased, not that this matters, but like my social media following went up. My exposure definitely went up. I'm starting to get in more higher profile fights after that. So I think it did exactly what I wanted it to.
That's understandable. I mean, it also, I feel like, regardless of what the situation may be, controversy helps sell too.
Sure.
You know, I mean, like, I think it's one of the most infamous scenes from when Tim Elliott was there with you, with you guys out there. So I mean, it just always shows up on the, like the top, top 5, top 10, whatever crazy moments in the Tough House.
That was an absolute train wreck. That was the night before the last fight, right. And everybody was. It was like there was me, Tom, Diego, and Jesse. Everybody else in that house was just pissed drunk, and Tim was probably one of those as well. And it was just a bad deal. Everybody was partying. I don't think anybody went to bed until like 4 or 5 that morning. It was just that's the show though. That's the beast of the show. That's what people want to see. And it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And fighting became a lot easier after that. Everything is stacked against you. I fought everybody that stayed in my room. I fought them all. Ramsey, Tom, Jesse. Fought all of them. It's just such a different dynamic. It definitely it'll either make you or break you. You know what I mean? I see it break some people on the show, or it'll make you way tougher than when you went in, because you have nothing but time, man. You have 6 weeks of just time to yourself. A lot of time to yourself to reflect. A lot of time to think. And sometimes that's a great thing, and sometimes it's terrible, depending on who you are. So, like I said, I think that show will give you exactly what you're looking for. Or that show will give you what you want out of it. You know what I mean? If you look at it as it's hell, and it can be hell, then you're gonna get that for 6 weeks. If you use the opportunity that the platform they give you, they can do really good things for you too.
Now, you mentioned the business aspect being a main focus for you making that decision. Part of the reasons, one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on the show too as well is because how well I respect your business acumen.
I appreciate that.
We had a little bit of conversations out in Anaheim about it, but just some of the posts that you put up from your business tips in terms of investments, or how to just make smart moves financially. Yeah. I think that's something that there's a lot of the younger, like as you mentioned in your speech earlier this week, the freshmen and sophomores of the game, and just even people of the public period who just don't know some of those simple things. Yeah. And I've learned a lot from those.
Man, I'll tell you what, this is something I'm super passionate about. So, like, buckle up. We're fixing to get into it. Nothing hurts my heart more than to see somebody dedicate their entire life to a sport, make a lot of money, and then at the end of that, they don't have anything to show for it. They don't have any real assets, right? Because like what are we doing this for? Like, why are we fighting? And the answer is because we love to do it. But take fighting out of it. Why are you playing professional football? If would you do the same thing if it was free? No, you have to pay your bills. The answer is we're doing this obviously because we love the sport, but we're also trying to make it to the UFC because the UFC can equal financial freedom if you play it correctly. So nothing hurts my heart more than to watch these guys dedicate their whole life, go through these battles, these wars, and then at the end of their career they have nothing. And so what happens is they go back and they try to do these last fights, or they'll get cut from the UFC and then they'll try to go to do a Bellator stint, or they'll take these stupid fights. They don't train as hard. It's just a money grab at that point. And it's so sad to see that these guys have dedicated so much time and they don't have anything to show for it. I mean, we're talking there's so many factors that play into this, and we're talking about accounting, taxes, who to pay, when to pay them, how to pay them, why to pay them. This is a business. This is not a sport. This is a business. This is the fight business. And the sooner that the freshman and sophomore realize that this is not a sport. This is the entertainment business. The key word is business. And it has to be treated as such. So whenever somebody like the UFC comes and says like, hey, freshman, sophomore, take this short notice fight, there's no extra money involved. We'll take you to Singapore. If you go to Singapore, let's just say, there's somebody on this Singapore card, I'm not going to name names, this last Singapore card on a tough contract. Like, we're talking like 14-14, 16-16. Bro, if you lose, let's just say I'll go high end, 16. We'll go 16. 16,000 they lose, so you have 16,000. It's not 16, so you don't have 32. You have 16, right? 10% to your coach, 10% to your manager, 30% to taxes, 50% is gone off the top. 16, you're now at 8. How much did it cost you to, let's go on the back end, how much did it cost you to come out here and do a camp or wherever you're going to do a camp, right? Like, we're talking about diet, we're talking about supplements, whatever, there's a cost associated, travel, there's a cost associated with making that happen. Let's say conservatively $2,000 on all that. We're down to $6,000 for a 2 to 3 month camp. If that's not much money. It's not. So for me, this is my rule of thumb for people. Like, I see a lot of guys that they have to work like a part-time job to make bills. So they work their part-time job, and then when they get to the UFC, they stop working. They're like, I'm gonna dedicate all my time. No, like, keep working your part-time job to pay whatever your overhead is. If it's 2, 3, 4, 5,000, whatever that is, keep doing what you're doing. Use the UFC money, the extra money, to then invest. That investment should then pay you back, and you have to be smart with your investments. I'm big on real estate. Real estate is the only investment in the world that you can get top in and bottom in, and somebody else is paying your payment while you're doing it. So I'm really big on real estate. But it's crazy because these guys they'll live on their UFC money, and then if they get hurt, they either one of two things happen. They either take a stupid fight that they shouldn't because they're in a spot where they need money, or that's the worst fucking thing. It drives me nuts. I need the money. No, you don't. You don't need the money. Quit. Why are you taking a fight that doesn't benefit you? Because you need the money. No, you don't. If you weren't in the UFC, what would you do? You would find a different way to make money. Like, money is not hard to come by. It's not. Like, it's just a mindset that you're lacking, right? So these guys, they take a short notice fight and they think they're going to get a favor back from the UFC. They're not going to give you a favor. They're not, and that's not a shot on them. That's not a shot on the UFC. It's just the second that these freshmen and sophomore realize that nobody's going to do them a favor, this is a business, the better off they're going to be, right? So they have to use that money, the UFC money, to then make more money. So then when you want to go buy the Rolex, the new car, all that shit, when you want to go buy that shit, you have to use it from the investment money, the profit. You bring it back in, not the initial money, not the initial investment money. That's where they fuck up at, is they want to use the UFC money. That's not yours. That's investment money. Then from the investment money, that's when you can go buy the Rolex. That's when you can go buy a new house. That's when you can go buy a new car. The whatever the stupid shit that you want. But until then, these guys, and it's a grind. It's a process. Most of the people come in from, I'm ranting, by the way. I'm going way into this. So
no, I love it.
Most of the people in fighting come from low-income families or broken homes. So they've never seen money in their life. So these dipshits, somebody just made 10 and 10. They're going buying Gucci shoes. Bro, you just spent fucking 10% of your purse on a pair of shoes. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then what's worse is they don't have anybody telling them, hey, dipshit, this doesn't make any sense. And then it's just a repetitive cycle. They run out of money, they fight again. They run out of money, they fight again. They run out of money. And then eventually, the money train's gone. At some point, it may not be a year from now, 2, 3, 5, 10, but it will run out. And then you have nothing to show for it. And that's what, it breaks my heart to see these guys that are fucked up, can barely get out of bed in the morning, and they have nothing to show for it.
You just went full Gary Vee
I did.
For a minute. That was awesome.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's something that I feel like...
We got to cut that little spot alone.
Oh, yeah. That alone, I'll segment that. But that's something that I feel like not just fighters or like young fighters, people in general can gain something from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're absolutely correct. I mean, it's yes. I'm not going to go into another rant, but yeah, you're right. I mean, for me, I have two things that come to mind. There's cash flow and there's wealth, right? Like, cash flow is like, how much money do I have in my bank account? Like, that's cash flow. Wealth is, whenever I'm done with all this, what will I have? What will allow me to sit on a beach and not do shit? That's wealth. Like, my house paid off, my car's paid off, all this, what will I have to be able to say, boom, all these fights, I now have to show for something. I have something to show for me. So cash flow is what you have in the bank account. Wealth is what you're creating in the future whenever you want to retire, or it's the long game, right? It's the long game. And people are so right now focused, so short-term focused, so cash flow focused. And I love cash flow. Don't get me wrong. I love money in the bank. I try to live a very, very poor mindset. Like, I keep money, and you can ask my wife, she'll watch this and probably complain about it. I try to keep money out of my checking account. I have more money in my investment account than I do my checking account. And that is because we can live off a certain amount of checking. It's what I make, right? That's what I make from my gym, the gym that I have at home. That's my part-time job, right? Like, my job that I said, hey, the fighter, when you get to the UFC, that's my job. We have to live off that money, whether it be $1,000 or $20,000. You got to live on that money, no matter what it is. Everything else I make goes in an investment account, and that money is designed to create wealth for the future.
That's awesome. I mean, I love hearing that myself, especially because I just feel like within the public schooling system, for the most part, that's something that most people never learn. Public schools, don't get me started. This is another part. We're going to have to cut this, that is a sham. It is an absolute sham. Public schools are it's a scam, and basically public schools are, I mean, look at, I have my 14-year-old sister that lives with me. She's in school right now. She's doing math shit that, like, I say to her, like, two things. One, with math, like, the only people that need to know this type of math are math teachers and engineers. Like, why don't you go to a trade school to learn that? Secondly, the curriculum designed in high school was, first of all, it was made 100 years ago, whatever, but it was designed off of the knowledge due from memorization, because we didn't have these when these curriculums were made, right? But I don't need to fucking know, math should be their times tables, right? Like, you should know, you got to be able to figure out what a 20% tip is. Don't be a dipshit. Like, you need to have some intelligence to have a conversation of, like, at least you're, 8 times 7 is 56. You know what I mean? You got to know that shit, right? Outside of that, what do I need to know algebra for? Why do I need to know that? Who was the third president of the United States? Well, let's look it up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to memorize these things. So what we should be teaching our kids is real life shit, like credit scores, how to get a house, what you need. 'Cause I have grown men that come to me and say, hey man, like, I don't know what I need to get a house. How the fuck has nobody told you that before? Mm-hmm. Nobody told me. I just had to learn on my own. You know what I mean? Like, you need a good credit score. You need consistent income for 2 years. You got to have these things, and you have to have proof of that income, right? Like, how do I increase my credit score? Well, these are the things that we should be teaching our kids. And then don't get me started on college. College is a waste of money unless you're going to go to do a job that college is required. Like, I'm 5 credits shy of a degree. It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. You're paying thousands of dollars for a piece of paper. Most of you guys, which I'm going to assume most of the people listening to this right now, if you have a degree, my guess is you're not using it at all. It's a complete waste of probably $50,000 to $100,000, and now you're probably still, as a 30-some-year-old male or female, paying on that payment. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. No, I can speak to that myself, and I completely agree with you, by the way, as far as especially higher education on that, in that the world is evolving at such a rapid pace right now that the curriculum cannot keep pace with that. Because, for example, a class that I had in college, they were trying to teach us what hashtags were. Like, so how are you going to tell me that, and it's no disrespect to them. I mean, they were doing the best with what they had or whatever.
See, I disagree, though. Itself. I disagree. I don't think they are. Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means. I enjoy watching that shit, but let's just look at how the economy is designed as a whole. They need John and Jane Doe to go out and spend money. in order for them to spend money, they have to have money. In order for them to have money, they have to go work a 9 to 5. The problem is if you have kids, you can't go work a 9 to 5 unless you put them in daycare. Well, most people can't afford that daycare with their bills the way they are. So what do? Well, they create a state-funded daycare. It's called school. And they put those kids there to where the parents can go work. And it's been like that for how many years? I mean, a long time, right? But like you said it best, our economy is growing at such a rapid pace that is so difficult for them to keep up. But in my head, they haven't even made attempts to keep up. Like not even a single attempt. Like it's the same shit as what 3, 4, 5 generations ago we're learning, right? It's the same stuff, and in no way has that evolved. I mean, slightly, not enough though. You know what I mean? Like what are we teaching the kids? It's crazy, and that's why. But I will say this: with all that being said, I think it's a great thing that they teach that, and here's why: because that leaves room for outliers, right? People that decide to think for themselves and go create real wealth outside of the normal 9 to 5. And don't get me wrong, I have like family and friends that are millionaires from working 9 to 5s. It can be done. But I will say this, you're not going to stay a millionaire unless you take that 9 to 5 money and invest in it. It's not going to happen. It's more money, more problems. Like you make more money unless you're living like a fucking the Dave Ramsey shit, which is a joke to me. Like I'm not gonna be negative mindset. Like that. One of the biggest pet peeves I have is talking about the $5 Starbucks cup. Like, well, save the $5 a day on Starbucks, and you'll save X amount per year. I don't fucking care about saving $5. I'm gonna go make $5 more a day to get it. That's the mindset that I think people should have, rather than save. Everybody wants you to save because they want your money in the banks. Right? I don't want my money in the bank. I want my money in real assets going to return me money. I want to live broke. The bank doesn't return me shit. I'm lucky if I get a 0.5% return on my money there. If I go put that into real estate, I have somebody else paying my bills. I have inflation, 3% inflation per year, I might add, where you're lucky to get a 0.5% in the banks, and somebody's paying my payment.
There you have it right there, people. I mean, there's a blueprint for success right then and there.
I mean, it's nothing. Read the books though. Like, you know what I mean? Like the books are all out there. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like all these things. It's the information is there. All the information in the world, right here. It's just do you want it or not. You know what I mean? Like, and then if you do see it, what the hell are you gonna do with it? That's the hard part. It's not easy figuring it out because you have to sift through all the bullshit along the way. It's not easy.
So, with all of that, I mean, I love hearing that because that just completely blows my mind. So you mentioned some of the frustrations in relation to, to fighters as it comes to the finances. Now that you're at this stage of the game as a vet, let's kind of circle it back to sport itself.
Sure.
What is some of the biggest frustrations that you see as a vet and as a coach and a gym owner yourself as well?
I mean, the obvious one is fighter pay. Somebody posted a thing today. Masvidal made $500,000. Canelo made $33 million. The difference between that is Canelo is a partner in the show. Canelo is not a fighter. He's a promoter. There's just somebody else's name on it. He's a partner in the show. Masvidal is an employee. The sooner they figure that out, the better. I'm an employee for the UFC. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, unfortunately, that's where our sport is. It's a new sport. I'm 25 years old, and unfortunately, that's where we are. I do think it will get better. I do think we'll start to see pay increases. And really, honestly, if you look at the last 3 years with Conor, Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, some of these like anomalies coming in, you are starting to see like they broke the $1 million, disclosed salary mark, which was, it was a big step in my brain. Like, hey, like we can break this threshold, So, but I do think within the next. It won't happen while I'm still fighting. Probably in the next 5 or 10 years, you'll see people start to become partners in the show. You're already starting to see more competition created with ONE FC and Bellator and some of these other ones. But Mayweather, people, when they look at Mayweather, well, he got paid this and so-and-so got paid. Mayweather is the show. Like, it's his Mayweather Promotions. He's not a fighter. He's the promoter. This is his deal. So we're not talking about what he got paid to fight. We're talking about alcohol sales, gate, parking, all that, right? Like after the venue's paid, that's his check. He did not get 300 million, whatever it is to fight. He got that because he brought that in. So that's where I think that's where the misconception is. Can it be more from the UFC? Yeah, I mean, I think the UFC profited $600 million last year. Like after everybody's paid bonuses, there's $600 million left on the table. I think that, I think there's more to go around for sure. And I do think we're pushing to get that, maybe not at the pace that we would all like. I mean, of course, if you ask me, do I want paid more? Well, yeah, for sure. I would love to be paid more. Yeah, I don't think it's where we need to be yet, but I think it's on its way.
What is your counter to the statement if, say I'm someone from the UFC who comes to you and says, well, the reason why fighter pay is at the bracket that it is the reason why we've been able to sustain the promotion for 25 years as opposed to some of the other banners out there that have, came and went because of financial issues?
Don't take my opinion, don't take your opinion, let's look at the facts. The facts are, after all the bills are paid, after you've given Conor bonuses, Dana's got his bonus, matchmakers are paid out, the liquor sales are paid for, blah, blah, there's still $600 million on the table. There's more to go around. And I'm not saying that we need all of it, but there is more to go around. If this happened immediately, like if they said, look, we're going to do this, if this happened immediately, I think it would be a huge, massive step. So if, let's just say fighter is getting, let's take away win-losses. Like, what I'm fighting, why would I get paid half of my pay? Let's say you and I fight and we go to war. And it's like a split decision. Split decision means 2-1, right? Like there's a discrepancy on who we thought won. I lost, you won. My paycheck got cut in half because of that. Like, that's crazy to me. Just give me the show. Just give me the win and show. You make it a flat rate. I think if they did that, even at a 75% cut, you know what I mean? Because it's just so hard to go on a streak. I'm on a 5. This is a guy coming from a 5-fight win streak right now. So like, even if you took, if you go 10-10 rather than say 20, let's go 75%. Let's just go 15 flat. I think that would be a big step forward. I really do. And that's just like easy fix right now. You could talk about salaries like the NFL salaries and stuff like that. It's a little different though because a lot of these guys would get signed and they wouldn't fight, or it's hard to do with this sport. It's such a different animal. It's an individual sport rather than a team sport. So.
And there's no off season.
There's no
off
season.
That's the other thing that the other sports, when you're talking about contracts, you have salary cap, on a per year basis sort of thing, all of that. It's tough in fighting. I've had this discussion with a few other guys, like Chris, Kamosi, to some of the other, if, is unions the answer, or all these different things out there, and it's just such a tough thing because it seems like it is. I mean, because it's a year-round sport, there's a revolving door of personnel.
Yeah.
So I think that's where some of the biggest obstacles come into play. Would you say that that's kind of in line?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you figure Tom Brady gets injured, there's somebody to replace him. You know what I mean? Which is the same with us, but like Tom Brady's still going to get paid. It's just hard because, like you said, there's no off-season individual sport. It's just a different animal. So that's why I said the flat rate would be a nice adjustment, like right now. I don't have all the answers, but that's the one that comes directly to mind to me is doing something with the fighter pay, and then figure out, do the math on the Reebok money. All that money's not going to us. They said it was. It's not. Like, just do the math of what the payouts are over the course. It's not. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure what the answer is, but it's. Once again, I don't know if a union's the answer either. A union seems to be like the quick topic of discussion where people are like, we need a union, and it might help. It might help, but the thing that you have to think about is like the freshman and sophomore of the game. They don't realize that a union, you have to pay for a union. That costs money. That's more money. So like now you're already bitching about money, and now you have to pay more money. Now, if you wait that out, if you go through the inception of the union, you wait it out, you're likely going to get more money, but you may have to go through a lockout. And that's where it's not going to happen because the huge players in the game, the Connors, the Brocks, the Rondas, the John Jones, they're going to pay those people, right? So if those people keep fighting, those are the needle movers, they're going to pay them what they want. And the lower level guys are going to get paid what the contract says. So they do a good job of keeping it where it is. Like I said, it's not where it needs to be, but it's on its way.
Understandable there. We've covered a lot of topics here today, and definitely some stuff that was very, very eye-opening, mind-blowing that way. So I guess the natural transition or the natural question is, where do you see yourself after fighting?
I do a lot of things like right now already. I mean, the obvious, I love the sport. I'll never get out of the sport. I think the obvious answer for me is like coaching. I really enjoy coaching. I'm a current coach. I coach multiple people in the UFC. And I think that's where I'm passionate about that, probably more so than I am fighting. That seems to be the logical transition. But I will continue to invest and do other things.
So as we transition on the way out of the show here, if there was one little nugget of advice that you can give to the 0-0 James Krause, what would it be?
That's a tough one, man. I've been doing this for a long time. 0-0 James. Gosh, you put me on the spot. I think when I started, I was very closed-minded and stubborn. I think I would. It would if I seen myself back, it would obviously be easier to say, sift through the bullshit. Like, watch out for this, dude. Watch out for this. This is. I think this because whenever I started in where I'm from, I was pretty much like I was one of the first. So there wasn't a whole lot of like blueprint. So now there's a lot more red flags to see. There's a lot more people that have kind of the lay of the land is very clear. You're not walking into uncharted territory anymore. So I think obviously if I'm looking back at my 0-0 self, I would just try to save myself some time on dealing with navigating through, like, taking short notice fights was probably the biggest one. Like, I took a bunch of short notice fights as a freshman and sophomore thinking that it would get me some credit with the big shows. It doesn't do shit. You know what I mean? Like, so learning that having somebody tell me this is a business, they're not out to help me, and that's okay. Like, people think when I say that, it's like, oh, you're taking a shot on your employer. No, I'm not, because they don't help me, but I don't help them either. This agreement happens when we're both willing to help each other, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I am an independent contractor. You know what I mean? Even though we're not treated like one, that's what I am. So, I think I would tell the 0-0 James Krause to sift through the bullshit, be aware of the things that slowed you down, training smarter, just all the things that we've learned over the last 10 years in the sport, the old school training methods, the path to getting into a big show, all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, James, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today. I'm really honored to have you here. So this is the Comments from the Peanut Gallery podcast, the James Krause, Jordan Kurtz. Thank you guys for listening.